Hello, my gorgeous people. Welcome back. This is Permission Granted, the place where we get to just keep taking off the things and stepping out of societal expectations for success and self-expression, where you get to live your full self and win. I'm Anahita, I'm your host, you know me, and today we are in for a treat with the exquisite Nancy Aronie. Nancy is the author of Writing from the Heart, Finding Your Inner Voice. She received Teacher of the Year award 3 years running when she taught literature for social reflection at Harvard University. She was a recipient of the Artist in Residence Award at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, columnist for McCall's Magazine, teaches at Esalen, Grapalu, Omega. Oh my goodness. You can read her full bio, Nancy's full bio here, and we're in for a treat, and I'm really excited. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Honey Bunch. Glad to be here. So, writing. I'm going to tell you how I know how to do this workshop. Is that good?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We want to hear it.
A long time ago, before you were born, I got a phone call from the writing group in my town. All fancy schmancy writers, all published, and they said, we want you to be part of our group. Well, I was ecstatic. I hung up the phone. I went screaming through the house. Oh my God, I have to lose 15 pounds by Wednesday. You know what? Let's start with, you do not have to be thin to be a writer. That was it's my own issue. Then I went running through the house like, oh my God, what does a writer wear? Black. Okay, so I wore black and I got there. Now these women, 14 of them, had been meeting for years and I was brand new. And somebody had been chosen the week before to read her piece out loud. She reads her piece. It's stunning. I know good writing. And the first person who responded said, you know, Harriet, I felt that your characters were really rather one-dimensional. I mean, I couldn't relate to them. And then one by one, everybody in that room told her something that was wrong with the piece. And I remember sitting there with like a stomachache thinking, A, they're wrong because the thing was gorgeous. And B, I'm here in this room. I'm going to get bashed as well. And then after everybody finished making their horrible comments, there was a table laden with desserts. I'm a dessert person. There was peach cobbler. It was incredible. I glommed. I hung out with these mean-spirited people. And I got home, and my husband greets me at the door, and he says, how was it? How was it? And I said, the peach cobbler was unbelievable. He said, no, babe, the writing thing. And I said, oh, my God, not nice, mean-spirited. These women are tough. And he said, you're going to go back? I said, yeah. They're my mentors. Of course I'm going back. So the next week I go again in my black outfit, looking as possibly gorgeous as possible. Another great piece. Another writer reads her piece. It's really, really powerful, compelling, gorgeous. And the first person who responded must have gone to the same surgeon to have her jaw wired shut. Because she said, you know, Stephanie, I swear she said this because I went out to the car and wrote it down. I really have to admire your perseverance. I mean, you just don't quit, do you, dear? Oh my God, you don't quit, do you, dear? And then everybody in that room said something terrible to her. I could not believe it. And I just
Why would they keep going back? That's absurd.
I think people are used to being criticized. People are used to having negative stuff said about them. And besides, that's what low self-esteem is all about. Let's keep bashing. And then there was Blueberry, something that was so fabulous. I glommed. I hung out with the people. I got home with blue teeth. My husband greets me at the door. How was it? How was it? I said, you know, these women should not be allowed to be near writers. They should write a cookbook, but they shouldn't be allowed to comment about writing. He said, are you going back? And I said, yeah, I'm reading next time. He said, you're not worried? And I said, they're not going to do it to the new person. Well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me and say, Nance, don't go? So I went and I read the best thing that I have ever written, at least at that point. And I took notes when they told me how bad it was, one by one. And I was holding back the tears. And then they had apple crisp, and I knew I had to get out of there. And I don't like eating off paper and plastic. I put the apple crisp into a paper bowl. I can tell you what that bowl looks like to this day, because when you're in trauma, you memorize every detail. It's slow motion. I got the apple crisp. I took a plastic spoon. Doesn't fit in the mouth, this plastic spoon. Got into the car, took a bite, and I couldn't swallow. And I didn't write for 2 years. Nothing. Nothing, even though I knew they were wrong. Even though I knew they were wrong and that I was a good writer. You can give over your power to the wrong people if you're fragile and if it's your soul. They were bashing my soul. They weren't bashing my ego. My
Creativity
ego could have handled
so
it.
fragile. Oh my God.
Unbelievable. So years later,
Wow.
my husband and I had a very successful business. We were making a ton of money and then we lost everything. And I knew I had to get a job and I had to get real and I had to get out of my tennis whites and I had to say, okay, now I got to earn some money. And I grew up without any money, so I knew what it was like to work hard. And it was too late to get a teaching job. And I put a little ad in the paper, writing workshop in my home. And 12 people came. And guess what happened? The same thing. They bashed each other. They were negative. They tore each other apart. And I had never facilitated a group before. I had taught college English, but I had never done anything like this before. It was called Writing from the Heart. And one by one, they were hurting each other. And you know what I saw? Shoulders went up like this. Faces got constricted. And the writing got generic and safe and uninteresting. And there were 10 Tuesday nights. And by the last Tuesday night, I was so unhappy and so frustrated and so sad that I had not done my job. And they left, and I was never going to do it again. You know how you have a high being? There's a part of you that has like wisdom up here somewhere, maybe third eye, maybe crown chakra. But I put another ad in. And this time when the people came, I said, I've only done this once. I failed miserably, but I learned something. Creativity requires safety. You will be safe here. I have one rule, and that is when you finish reading, we will tell you what we loved. That's it. And that's what I do to this day, and it works.
I love it. I love it. You know what I'm thinking? Because there's a group of women in my life, and we've been talking about creating a writing circle where just so we have the safety, that we
Yeah.
just require the safety. And so I was like, ooh, maybe we can like bring Nancy and kind of like open up our circle.
I'm coming, I'm there.
Mm.
Spot, I'm there.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is so exciting. So what is the process that you're taking us through?
Well, the first thing I sent out that got accepted, and it was very early on. I was very lucky. It's different in this day. I think there's so many forums. There's more stuff, but it's much tougher. And I sent out a piece, and I got a call from the editor, and he said, "I love this piece. I'd like to take you to lunch and talk to you about it." And so there I went to this restaurant. Actually, um, it was called Butterflies, and it's so ironic because butterfly, psyche, transformation. I had a life transformation at that restaurant. So I meet him. I sit down in the booth. He comes in. How do you do? Nice to meet you. And he's got my manuscript, pulls it out, puts it on the table, and this is what he does. He circles the whole top. Can I swear, Anahita?
Oh
He
yeah.
goes, this is shit. I'm like, what? He had me come to lunch to hear that. And then he circles the whole bottom. This is garbage. And then the whole center, he circles the whole center and he goes, this is gold. He goes to the first circle and he said, here you are quoting Shakespeare. You know what, Nance, I don't need Shakespeare. Everybody quotes Shakespeare. I don't need that. And here you are, this last paragraph, you're quoting Woody Allen. I love Woody Allen. He's funny. Everybody quotes Woody Allen. I don't need that. This, and he circles the whole center again. This is gold. This is your voice. And I said, what's my voice again? He said, it's authentic. It's one of a kind. I've never heard this before. I've never heard words put together, strung together like this before. I want you to go home, and I want you here, and I want you here, and I want you here. And that's the process, is sound like you. Take the chance of using your rhythms, your language, and tell your story from your gut, from your heart. Your brain is good. Your brain is good for memorizing facts, but it's a heart-gut story. It comes out of the truth of you. And you don't write it to impress anybody to get an A. You're not writing it for the teacher. You're not writing it so people will like you. You're writing it because this story has to birth itself. It has to come out of you. It's bubbling, it's burning, and you are going to get that rage on the page. You're going to get this stuff out of first of all, you are carrying this stuff in your liver, in your pancreas, in your heart. And what do you think arthritis is from? You get this stuff out of you. Your sorrow is locked in your body. I'm convinced of it. I've seen too many people get this stuff out and feel light, and it's happened to me too. I had a hiatal hernia for 3 years, many, many years ago. And I walked around, I felt like a truck was on my chest. It felt like a knife was in my cleavage, and it felt like a piece of meat was stuck in my throat. And I went to acupuncture, and I went to chiropractics. I took everything, and I could not get rid of that pain. A woman called me, and she said she wanted to trade the workshop for a massage. She said she was a massage therapist. I had never had a massage, and I needed the money. And I said, I really can't trade. And then I thought, no, you know what? She needs this workshop. I can feel it. So I gave it to her, and we traded. She touched my body, and I started sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And my hiatal hernia was gone. Gone. I really feel like whatever you're carrying is stored in those organs. They're in your heart. Get them out. Even if you're not planning on writing a book and publishing, get the stuff out of your body onto the page. So that's part of, what I really work on, is getting people to just get that story out.
Mm-hmm.
And there are.
I love it. And I found myself like just getting a little bit like, because before we were going to come do this, you had sent me, I didn't understand the instructions, right? So I thought that I was going to write with you. We were going to write here. And then seconds before we started recording, you're like, well, did you do your homework? Did you bring your writing? And I was like, no, I did not do any writing, but I write. So I have like lots of raw material. So I was like, okay, fine. Let me just pull something up. So I started to feel the panic of, it is a little panic. And then it's also the intimacy with this community, because this is going to be viewed by thousands of people who are sitting with us and partaking in these sessions. And so it'll be interesting to share stuff that I wasn't planning to share anytime soon.
Okay, you want to do it now?
I don't know. Should I do it now?
Sure. We've just introed it.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something else you wanted to.
Well, I have many things, but I think this is a good time.
Okay, fine. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. So you said I'm going to read for like 2 to 3 minutes.
Yep.
All
and
right.
you read slowly because I'm taking notes.
Okay, I will read slowly, and
Give us a little context of what where are we? What are we talking about? Or are you just going to plunge in? It's up to you.
It's going to tell you right where I am. So
okay.
This is my forthcoming book. We'll see when she decides to conclude herself. The title is the same as this series, actually. The working title is Permission Granted, Liberating the Female Psyche and Soul. So the tagline is different. And this is part of the writing on the shadow. Now, this is still, I haven't even finished the first draft of the book. So like I said, Nancy said, do you have something? And I was like, I don't, but I do. So let's just see what we have. So it's 4:30 in the morning. I have a small bag of cocaine that I swore I'd save for another time, but it won't let me go. I do another line off the bathroom counter and try not to hate myself as I contemplate taking off the thick layer of stripper makeup. I hate myself most in the empty moments of a come down anyway, and right now I should be good for another 30 to 40 minutes. So I take off the false lashes and clean the makeup off my face. The coke is the only thing I have ever known that has made me feel invincible. It's been the only real cure for the broken one, the one who felt like she had no choice, no power, no voice. The one who was left and rejected, abused and misunderstood. This white powder is her cloak of strength. This is how she gets through the night. I need her to get through the night because I can't stand her. I can't stand her ugliness, her neediness, her brokenness, her self-pity, her self-objectification and victimization. I just can't.
But as long as I get to drape this white cloak on her shoulders, as long as I can numb to not only the pain of my childhood, but also my current existence, I am empowered to love. When I drown,
It's,
there we go.
oh, it's gorgeous. Unbelievable. Right. I was going to say to you before you read, vulnerability is the most important aspect. And look at what you just did. I'm going to make comments. First of all, Permission Granted is a phenomenal title. Shadow, that's what we've got here. You started with it's 4:30, present tense. Can I tell you something? That present tense has an immediacy that is so powerful. And you obviously know this because you just did it all the way through. It's 4:30 in the morning. When you said cocaine, I was like, whoop, whoa, that's a powerful word. It buzzes. It sings off the page. You said another line. You said bathroom counter. That is such a great detail. Word stripper. Now, probably before this in the book, we know that there's a stripper here, but still, it's another word that you cannot ignore. You just can't like skip over that. It's like, whoa. And a come down, a phrase that I have never used. It's a fabulous. It tells me everything I know, just what you're feeling. Invincible is phenomenal. Read the only really. After 34 minutes, 30 to 4 minutes, and Invincible, read the only really line. It's the only really.
It's the only thing I have ever known that has made me feel invincible.
Keep going.
It's been the only real cure for the broken one.
Okay. The repetition in writing, if you do it by accident, it dilutes the power of the piece. If you say, that's a beautiful rug, I really love the rugs from Morocco, I decided to buy that rug. By the third rug, I'm going to throw up on you. But what you did was you did a build with the only really. It built a powerful, powerful build. Now, the no power, no voice, and was there no choice in there? Read that part.
Yes.
Read
the one
that.
who felt like she had no choice, no power, no voice.
Okay, listen to the sound of choice and voice. I know you didn't plan a poem, but this is music. The entire piece is music. It is singing off the page. So the sound of no power, no voice, no choice is gorgeous. Cloak of strength is phenomenal. And then later when you said drape this white cape over her shoulders, unbelievable. So cloak and draping over her shoulders, brilliant, totally brilliant. And her, referring to it as her, and I can't stand her. And did you have repetition of I can't stand her, I can't stand her?
I think
Read
so.
that. Read that. It's after Cloak of Strength.
The broken one, the one who has no choice, the one who was I need her to get through the night because I can't stand her. I can't stand her ugliness, her neediness, her brokenness.
Listen to the ugliness, neediness, and brokenness. That again is music. If you had two of those, I would ask you to do the third one, but you had three. There's something about the power of threes. There's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. There's pyramid power. Three is if you have a list of 4, it's fine. If you have a list of 7, it's fine. If you have a list of 2, it's nice balance. But 3, boom, boom, ba boom. You had threes all the way through here. I think that's all. I stopped you. It's gorgeous writing. I thought you were just a dancer and a teacher and a mentor and a gorgeous human being, but you are a writer.
Thank you. I know I'm a writer. Yeah. No, it's a love. It's a love. And that was just so like, oh my God, that was like, I could hear my voice crackling because I haven't read this to anyone. I mean, I have someone who is helping me prepare a book proposal, and we've actually paused the process because I needed to pause the process, but he's the only one who's seen it. And my husband.
Honored, and we're all honored that you shared that because it is risky when something's in process. But I do believe it's perfect. It was gorgeous.
I really appreciate you creating the safety that I could even consider it, because I was like, oh, I don't have anything. And I didn't want it to be like, it was just, anyway, it was here. And then I'm noticing the part of me that I'm sure lives in all of us that's saying, but tell me how I can fix it.
That's right.
So we still look for that. So what do you do when you run these workshops and you praise and you uplift and you point out to what is good? And then don't people say, tell me how I can make it better?
Well, they don't, because I always say at the very beginning, this is not about publishing. This is about the embryonic stage of the first draft. This is when you don't cut anything. This is when you put everything down. Later, after you've worked on it, maybe a third draft, and you really want to hone and you want to cut, and then you get somebody who's a pro, an editor, and you tell them at first, I really can't be sliced and diced, but I want honesty, and I do want to make it better. But in my workshop, really, I just don't want anybody to leave thinking, because they'll only remember the things that you criticized.
It's
They'll
true.
only remember how you could make
It's
it better.
100% true. You said so many things, and I know that if you gave me one piece of criticism, like you said so many,
That's what you would remember. That's
would,
what happened.
that one thing would be this big, and all of these things would become like these tiny little ants that I can't. I'm like, yeah, like she just said that to me, you know.
It's human nature. It's human nature. That's what we do. We hear the negative. So, my son was sick. He got diabetes at 9 months old, and
Oh my gosh.
by the time he was the youngest diabetic in medical history at the time, and angry and sick and horrible. And we did everything wrong you could possibly do with a chronically ill child. At 22, he got, God bless you again, he got MS and diabetes. And by the time he was 25, he was in a wheelchair. By the time he was 27, his hands were tremoring, and he had 12-hour brain surgery to try to stop the hands from tremoring so he could do his insulin shot. By the time he was 29, he couldn't pee anymore. We had to catheterize him, and then he got a urinary tract infection on his aortic valve, and he had open heart surgery. This guy was Job. So, in the very beginning of his illness, I sort of could see down the lane what was going to happen. And he was an acting major at Bard College in New York. Very, very beautiful school. And I said to him, we were about to take a hike. He wasn't going to be able to hike, obviously. And I looked at him sitting there. He happened to be in a director's chair because we were at a friend's house. And we were all outside. And I looked at him, and I just saw the trajectory of what was going to happen. And I said, hey, Dan, do you want to make a film of this? That way we can track this disease. And instead of being mother and son, we can be actor and director. And he said yes. And we high-fived, and I remember his hand was tremoring so much that I had to grab it to stop it. And I got a camera, and I started filming him. He always had a girlfriend. He was gorgeous. He had a girlfriend, and the day that he came home from open heart surgery, she was lifting him onto the bed, and I was filming. And she said, and she was strong, and she was beautiful. And she said, oh my God, the urine bag, it's stuck in the wheelchair. And I'm filming. And she flipped the urine bag onto the bed, and Dan looked like a cadaver. He had dark black circles. He was skinny. I mean, he had just had open heart surgery. So I filmed this whole thing. About a week later, I got a call from Connecticut from a gallery owner who knew me. And he said, Nance, we want you to come to Hartford. We want you to get on the stage and tell your stories. Everybody misses you. And I said, no, I'm not coming to Hartford. I'm not telling stories. I'm crying all the time. My kid is very sick. And he didn't hear me, obviously. And he said, so you got to bring your vineyard friends. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, I've been filming Dan. I have 50 hours. I could get somebody to give me 20 minutes. I'll put Dan on stage in the wheelchair. We'll show the 20 minutes. He'll get a standing ovation. He'll see that what he's doing is not for naught. So I gave it to this a gal who had just taken my workshop. She had just graduated from film school. And I gave her all these tapes, and I said, can you just get me 20 minutes? It doesn't have to have any continuity. I just want to show it on a big screen. She gives it back to me. She's got the scene where Sarah is putting Dan on the bed, but she cut the scene where she said, oh my God, the urine bag, it's stuck in the wheelchair. Anahita, why did she cut that? Do you have any idea?
It was messy.
Yep, messy.
Ugly. Yeah.
Ugly, too embarrassing, didn't want to make people uncomfortable.
Right.
Can I tell you, writers out there, the urine bag is the story, just like the cocaine.
Yeah.
If you hide it, if you don't tell the truth, if you try to make us feel better, you have just watered down your powerful story. The urine bag is the story. Don't cut the urine bag. Don't cut the cocaine. Well, actually, you're supposed to cut the cocaine, aren't you? Anyway, that's just a hint of, in terms of writing, don't protect your reader. Get it all out in the first draft anyway. And then later you can decide, maybe I shouldn't have that in the first paragraph. Maybe that should be on page 180.
Right.
But get it out. When you're first writing, get it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
this is
other thing,
so
yeah, go ahead.
What is
The other
that?
thing, I got a job, when I told you that we went broke, and I had sold some stories to a magazine called Lear's, which was Frances Lear's divorce settlement money. She was married to Norman Lear, the guy who did All in the Family and all those great television shows. So she had a lot of money. It was in the 80s. And I needed a job, and I called the editor who had bought my stories, and I said, I'm looking for an actual job. And she said, can you do line editing? And I said, yeah. And she said, you know what? Come into New York Monday, bring a body of work. You'll meet Frances. You're as good as hired. I hung up the phone. I called everyone I knew and said, do you know what line editing is? You should always say yes, and then you find out later.
Always say yes, 100%.
That's clue number one. So anyway, I went to New York, and the interview was very weird. She never really asked me anything about writing, but she kept moving my hair off my forehead, and she was talking about her family and growing up on Fifth Avenue, and we just connected. And she finally said, after about an hour of an interview, she said, I know I want you near me. You're hired. I'm going to pay you $75K. Now, I'm going to admit something right now. I didn't know what K was. I know what it is now, but I didn't know what it was. But I knew it was good by her voice. So anyway, she told me to report to work that Monday, and I came to work. I got a babysitter. I had one kid in college, and one kid was a senior in high school. So I didn't need a babysitter, but I needed him to move into somebody's house. At that point, my husband was commuting from Philadelphia. We were both out of the house. I got someone to take Dan. I moved to New York. My husband actually ironed my outfit the night before my first day of work. That's how beautiful my guy is. By the way, I proposed to him 54 years ago. We just had our 52nd anniversary. Thank you very much. He's still unbelievable. He's not ironing anymore, but he's so unbelievable. So I get to Lear's. I get there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, I have to do this interview. She wants me to go to this thing on the Waldorf Astoria and interview Johnny and Yelly and write the story up. Friday morning, by the way, all my friends in Hartford sent me flowers. They were so excited that I got this huge job as an editor. So I had my flowers on my desk. She calls me in Friday morning and she says, Nancy, have you found a place to live yet? And I said, no, I'm still at my girlfriend's apartment. She said, good, because this is not going to work. I said, in my mind, what's not going to work? The desk? The computer? What? I couldn't even imagine. She said, you're a terrific writer. You can work for anybody, but not for me. And she opened the door and I was fired. I was fired. And I'm walking down the hall crying. And the managing editor calls me in. He says, Nancy, don't take this personally. She fired 8 other people. Frances is bipolar. I also didn't know what a bipolar was yet. Now I know. She hired you on an up day. She fired you on a down day. This has nothing to do with you. I got back to my desk. My flowers were still alive. I thought, ironically, I'm dead, but they're alive. I called my husband. I said, you have to pick me up. I just got fired. The shame was even though he said what he said, I was so ashamed. I get back to Hartford. I'm at the post office a few days later. A whole line of people. I see a couple of people that know me. How's New York? I said, it's still there. I'm not. And I started telling people what happened. And every time I told it, if you're a storyteller, you embellish. And every time I told it, the story got better. And my editor, the one that had said, your voice is gold, he calls me on the phone, calls me in. He says, what happened? And I told him. He said, go home and write it. I said, Larry, I can't. My heart's broken. He said, go home and write it. I said, Larry, I can't. You have to understand that I am weeping every minute. I'm so ashamed. He said, go home and write it. Guess what? It's the best thing I've ever written. And I'm telling the story because when you're in transition and when your heart is breaking, that is when to do the writing because you will get the blood on the page. Even if it doesn't come out great, you'll get the immediacy. You'll get that broken heart. That's what you're looking for. Then we believe it. So I'm still proud of that piece. And that was like 19, I told you, before you were born.
Wow. Wow. How do we get the blood on the page when we're not bleeding?
I think you can go back to the stuff that hurt if you're willing to feel. I mean, we have a lot of numbness, we have a lot of blocks, we have a lot of ways of escaping, we have a lot of coping mechanisms, which are great. That gets you through the day. But if you're going to write, you have got to go back there and you have got to feel what it felt like to be fired. You have to feel what it felt like to snort that line. You have got to go back to when you were not happy, when things were tough. And you don't have to stay there. And it's not like you're going to be a depressed person because you went there. You're going to now be able to write that story. And that's what healing is about. Getting it out of your soul, getting it out of your body, getting it onto the page is where the healing is. You don't have to carry this shit anymore.
Yeah. Don't have to carry it anymore. And it can be, what I love about this is that it can actually be an offering of beauty into the world, even though
Yep.
when it's inside, it's heavy and painful and it can
And
cause
marinating in
yeah.
there.
And
You
it comes
know,
out and it can be an offering.
yep. Along this line, I used to start the workshop by saying we're alchemists. We can turn shit into gold. We can take the tiny murders that happen to us, the traumas, all the horrible sorrow, and we can turn it into something beautiful. We can write it, we can sculpt it, we can paint it, we can dance it. In here, we're going to write it. But the most important part of the equation is first, you have to feel it. So Dan did die 10 years ago, by the way. And when he died, somebody offered me a drumming workshop in Florida. And she bought the ticket, she bought the airline ticket. And I woke up the morning after he died and I had a backache and I was kind of making jokes, even though I hadn't done any sobbing. And I was saying, oh, Dan's got my back, little joke, haha. And then I get on an airplane, and if you're 6 feet tall, which I am, and you get on an airplane, not good for the back. I got off the airplane, my back really hurt. And then sitting for 10 days drumming in a really stupid pillow, uncomfortable, I got home and I was on the floor. I couldn't move. My back was terrible. Again, I got chiro, I got acupuncture. I hung upside down in one of those things. I took Advil. I even read a book about anger in the back. Nothing. And I'm lying there, and about the 10th day, I'm thinking, we're alchemists. We turn shit into gold. We take the tiny murders, we take the
Have you
traumas.
tried it?
No,
You
I
have.
went through, no, I went through my entire introduction of my workshop, lying on the floor, and I got to the part where, but the most important part of the equation is, first, you have to feel it, the sorrow. And I thought, oh, the teacher has to feel it too? I started sobbing and weeping and wailing and pounding on the floor. And guess what? My backache went away.
Mm-hmm.
One day later, I got up off the floor. I was carrying that sorrow and I was giving that advice. You always teach what you need to learn, you know. This I've also learned. First you teach it, then then God or whoever's in charge says, you know what? You're doing a great job of teaching, but has it come through your experience or your brain? Did you read it or did you live it? Well, now when I say we're alchemists, first you have to feel it. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you. I resonate with that. Um, years before, this is just me sharing with you, and I guess everybody here, but years before I became a stripper, I was having a lot of spiritual downloads of knowledge and understanding about oppression and sexuality and religion. And when I was guided to become a stripper, I did not want to become a stripper. I thought that I should be doing then what I'm doing now because I knew all this stuff. Because I knew it, but it wasn't lived. It was just knowledge. It was literally like somebody opened the book to like knowledge around oppression and gave me all the knowledge. And so therefore at 24 years old, and I've been studying personal development and with teachers for like 10 years at that time already, I felt that I should be teaching. And so it was very humbling for my ego when, spirit was saying, no, you're going to go dance. And I was like, what?
This
Like,
is such a beautiful illustration of what we're talking about.
yeah, exactly that.
You know, for a while I was getting downloads and everything was beautiful and I saw heart rocks everywhere and my heart was wide open and coincidences were happening and miracles were happening and I was like talking to God in the trees, and I was just having fabulous, fabulous. And then it dried up, and it was gone, and I was miserable. One day at the end of a workshop, a gal and I was over, everybody was hugging, everybody was saying goodbye. And I don't know, she and I just started singing, and we started harmonizing, and we sang Joy to the World. It was August, but we were singing all these Christmas carols, and I was in heaven. And she said, you know, the Congregational Church is looking for a tenor. And I said, yeah, but I'm Jewish. And she said, they don't care. It's just a choir. They would be great about it. I said, are you sure? She said, just go, just come. I'll take you there. She took me there, and I got to be in the choir for 3 years. I loved everything about, first of all, I had never read the Bible. It was always in Hebrew. And I felt weird about saying Jesus, so I would replace it with Ram Dass. Every time they said Jesus, I said Ram Dass in my head. So I stopped singing in the choir because Sunday mornings were kind of sacrosanct, and I was missing my husband on Sunday morning, but it was a phenomenal experience. Then I go through this dry spell. My heart's closing. I don't feel any connection to anything beautiful. And I'm walking on the path that I always take. It's a beautiful walk. And I'm having a conversation with God. There had been a storm the night before, a huge storm. And I said, okay, God, I know that you have to take care of a lot of other people, but I'm feeling incredibly bereft. I feel abandoned. I don't feel connected to anything. I just need a sign. Just remind me. Remember all those things you were giving me, or whoever you are you a you? And then all of a sudden I had the stupidest thought, and I said, you're not mad at me because I sang in a Gentile choir, are you? In 1 millisecond, right in front of me, a tree had fallen into the crook of another tree in the shape of a cross. I went, good one, good, okay, I'm back. Is that amazing?
Oh my goodness. I love your storytelling, and that is amazing.
Thank you. Now, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Well, I think we're going to wrap up in a second, but what I loved is kind of like when you were saying, well, can you speak to how we can access a little bit of the rhythm when we're writing? Like you were kind of saying like, oh, and this sounds like poetry. And when you do this in threes.
Here's what you have to do. You have to read out loud. Read your stuff out loud, and you will hear when you need another ly. You will hear when the word purple is too guttural and you need lavender. You'll become your own best editor. It's a practice, just like spiritual practice, just like meditation. Writing is a practice. You will get better at it. Plus, read. Those are your mentors. Great writing. Read great writing, and you will get the rhythm. You'll have your own rhythm. Look, we're all storytellers. Everybody, every single person I know can tell a story because they've been listening to stories their whole lives. You pick up the phone and you call your girlfriend, okay, Lydia, you're not going to believe what happened. I was in the car, I was at the light on Mountain Avenue and Albany Avenue. And James Taylor, I've got him cranked all the way up. The volume is all the way up. And I look to my right, and he's sitting in the Jeep Wrangler wearing the sheepskin jacket I gave him for Christmas. I cannot believe it. Why is the light change? Why doesn't the light change? I hate him. I hate him. I will never look at him. I'm not looking. I'm looking straight. My eyes, I've been crying. The black makeup is dripping down my cheek. Okay, now you're going to go write it. Having sat in my automobile, all of a sudden you got this phony voice. But when you were talking to your girlfriend on the phone, you were articulate, you had details, you were clear, you were emotional. Pretend you're talking to your girlfriend on the phone. You're telling somebody that you know. It's intimate, it's real, it's powerful, it's vulnerable, and it's passionate. Don't forget the passion.
No, thank you. Passion. I feel like we could sit here. I could sit here with you all day, and we could sit here with you all day, but we're coming to a close. And I know that there's a way for everyone to stay connected with you, and you have a beautiful gift for us, which I'm actually really excited if I think I know what it is now. So what is your free gift?
Documentary, and it's actually called A Certain Kind of Beauty. And it's about Dan. It's the film I was talking about. So I filmed him. And you know, what you get to see is he was screaming, why me? Why me? I hate my fucking life. I hate life. I can't do anything. And you get to see this arc where he finally surrenders and he finally becomes almost like a guru. He almost is like a teacher. He becomes so surrendered and beautiful and very crippled. He's got bed sores. He can't, you know, I walked in his room one day. This is not in the film, so I'll just add this to the gift. And I said, okay, Dan, I got one for you. And at this point, he's bedridden. I said, you got 2 bed sores the size of golf balls. You can't walk. You can't use your hand. You can't feed yourself. Your girlfriend left you. You're basically bedridden. I want to know why you, because you've been screaming, why me, why me? Why you, Dan? And he thought for a moment and he looked at me and he said, why not me? I said, you've guru'd. That is the most wise thing a person could say. So he becomes a wise person in the movie. And so I hope that's a gift for you all because it's a teaching of, stuff happens to us. And what are you going to do? You're going to rail against God, or are you going to surrender and say, why not me? And
Wow.
learn from it.
Wow. I don't even know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing up and sharing yourself and for that gift. And I hope that everyone just goes to the link and connects to this wisdom, the documentary. And I just can't even imagine, what it's been like for you to live through that. So I really honor your lived experience. And I'm sorry that you had to live through that. Yeah.
It's
Thank you
it's
so
such a
much.
joy to meet you. You are a beautiful. I mean, I thought you were beautiful physically. Your heart is whole. You're a beautiful human being. I'm so honored that I was part of this. Thank you.
Oh, what a pleasure to have had you. And I know we're going to stay connected. So thank you so much for being with us. And I know that it served everyone who's been with us. So sending you big fat blessings, write yourself a big fat permission slip to speak and write your truth, to feel it and to speak it and to write it and then speak it again. And to, I think, celebrate yourself in your own writing if there's nobody around to do it. And I'll see you inside. See you soon. Bye.